All right, sorry for the slight delay. We are live, Chatterbox Bearcats, Chuck and Houdini with you. The waiting room is off. We are up, and the Bearcats are 4-0. Houdini, let's give you a little opening thought, a chance to vent a little about this game before we start the show. 90-66, the final score in favor of Cincinnati, avenging that game last year that they lost over in Northern Kentucky. Cats look good, man. I know it's Northern Kentucky. They've gotten off to a somewhat tough start, but they have some decent players, some actually pretty good players on that team in Warwick and Vincent, and the Cats handled them kind of like that UIC game where they just took over, or Detroit Mercy where they took over and in the second half. First half entering the second half.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, it looks like Wes was working on that zone offense because I think we scored, 40 points last year against NKU. So I loved everything I saw. I thought everybody put something forth today. I mean, we put up 90 points. I'm going to take that every day of the week. I thought we saw a lot of good things. I mean, Daniel Skillings, 25 points. Is that a career high for him? He was unbelievable.
It's a career high for Skillings.
Career high. He was unbelievable. Day Thomas was awesome as well. Victor Locken played great. So I really loved what I saw today. I mean, I got worried going in there with that zone defense because I know we struggle with it at times. But this year's offense just looks so much more cohesive than it did last year. So I'm happy about the performance. We did what we were supposed to do.
Ugly to start. NKU started matching basket for basket, and then entering the second half, or ending the first half on that big 12-2 run or whatever it was, entering the second half strong. It was Bearcats really for a good 25 minutes of this game, and never really in question aside from that slow start. Dan Skillings, the career high 25 points, Locken 14 and 14. 39 minutes of hell where CJ Frederick did not score at all is finally over. He got on the score sheet with a 3. Sweet redemption. They take down NKU, and Georgia Tech is up next. That's a little rundown of what's coming up on the show. This is Chatterbox Bearcats. We don't have any sponsor to plug. Roll the tape, Casey. All right, man. Great teams cover. The Cincinnati Bearcats cover a 12.5 spread by not a hair. They double that up with ease. 90-66, the final score. Cincinnati shot at 50% from the floor, 37% from deep. NKU, on the other hand, 40% and 20% from deep. Just an overall really good outing that makes you extremely excited, even without the prospects of the big men, Aziz Bandago and Jameel Reynolds, who are waiting on a waiver from the NCAA. Will that happen? We don't know. It's going to the courtrooms. The little rigmarole of the law right here. Could Aziz or Jameel play this season? If they do, it's safe to say this team's going to be great, because as of right now, based on what we saw today, let's not overreact. It's NKU, I get it. But at the very least, this team's a lot better than last year's team. I think it's safe to say that.
Yeah, I mean, from your best player standpoint, I think if Skillings can continue to play like he played today, that's what we need. We need a go-to guy, and he was all over the place. Our transition offense was fantastic, and in all honesty, we need the Bearcats right now. After what happened on Thursday night, we just need them to be good. If they're not good, winter is going to be the worst goddamn winter of all time. So please let this be real. We're going to see against Georgia Tech when it's kind of our first Power 5 matchup. So I'm excited. I like what we've seen. We've gotten better every game, which is nice to see, kind of people growing in their roles and everything. So it's you can't complain. Can't complain at all on a Sunday.
Daniel Skillings, career-high 25 points, grabbed 7 rebounds in the game. At the start, I was calling him the window cleaner. That was actually one of the topics I had instead of the damn Daniel Skillings. It was the window cleaner, because he was grabbing everything off the glass and just missing bunnies. Next thing you know, I looked down at the stat sheet. I know he hit 2 threes. he had 20 points. I was like, when did Daniel Skillings hit all these buckets? And it was just because there was offensive rebounding left and right. He knocked down some threes, did a little bit of everything today, even hit some free throws after he missed a few out of the gate. And I was wondering, is Daniel Skillings going to be a sub 50% free throw shooter? He redeemed himself there, and overall Cincinnati redeemed themselves all the way around against NKU, advancing to 4-0.
Yeah, Skillings was an animal out there. And he's kind of a guy that you don't need to, he doesn't need to look for a shot necessarily. It's just in the flow of the game, and he's so lengthy. He got teed up. I loved it. That fired me up when he smacked the hell out of the backboard. But yeah, he was awesome. Overall, great effort. I thought the defense, as far as not letting guys go by him, I thought that was fantastic as well. I know Reds Daily was talking about we need interior defense and shot blocking. That's definitely an issue. I think the biggest guy for NKU was like 6'8". When we get into the Big 12, that's going to be different. We're going to be playing legit 7-footers. So we need to kind of figure that out. But yeah, again, when we're playing NKU, that's the best we've looked all year. I know it's game 4, but it was a hell of an outing. So I'm excited. Wes looks like I think that was the biggest thing. It's like, does he have the X's and O's? Does he know how to, be strategic in games? And I thought he did a great job today. And we're seeing a little growth from our boy Wes too.
Yeah, Wes was fired up. We're seeing some growth from Victor Locken after he started the season. Not so great. He was 6 of 11 from the floor. Forget Silky Johnson. Silky Locken. How about Victor stepping out and knocking down a 3? And I think that's 3 consecutive games at this point after he hit at least one against Eastern Washington in the last game. He had 14 points and 14 rebounds, his second straight double-double. Odio Guama, once again, he's just struggled this year. Safe to say that I don't think he's going to be a massive part of this team. And when the rotation shrinks, he may not be starting. He may not be receiving as many minutes. Hopefully Aziz can step in there. John Newman, 4-7 for the floor. He had 9 points. I like what Newman brings to the table. And then Day Thomas. How about it? I mean, it's pick out of a hat right now. Jizzle James has its moments. Give me the overall thoughts on the guard play as of right now. And what's up, everyone on the chat? Let's give some shout-outs. Only 7 watching. I know it's an NFL Sunday, and it's a tough crowd on an NFL Sunday, but the Bengals aren't playing. We're going to bury them tomorrow on the chatter, just like we did the Bearcats football team, because unfortunately, it's probably season over. We're still going down to the banks. We're still going to old Paul Brown Stadium, Paycor Stadium, to watch the Houdays on Sundays and get behind Jake Browning. But as of right now, it's the Bearcats. We got Jake Broadbeck. Tell Charlie we said hey. Mark Fetters, salute. He's always here. Reds Daily, the OG, and Matt Myers. How we doing? Welcome, everyone, to the stream. Bearcats get it done. Pick out of a hat, man. Who leads this team in scoring the overall games throughout this year? Is it every other day a different person steps up and plays?
It sure as hell seems that way. I think it's going to probably be between, if I had to guess, I mean, it's got to be between Day Thomas, Skillings, and Locken. I guess I'm just naming out 3, of our best players. But the way that Day can create his own shot is, I think he's probably going to be our leading scorer. He's probably going to get the most shots up as well. But our guard play was great. I mean, yeah, it was all over the place. I want to see Seamas do a little bit more. I think we're going to need him when we start playing better competition. Jizzle James had a kind of a dud, which you would expect from a freshman. He was 2 of 10 from the field with 5 points, but he still looked great. He still looked like a hell of an athlete. He's getting to the rim when he wants. So I liked his outing as well. I'd love to get CJ back on just, an absolute heater. I wouldn't mind seeing, 5 threes from him against Georgia Tech because we need those dead-eye shooters. But, yeah, the guard play, it's kind of tough to figure out the rotation with what guys you want in there because there's so many of them. They all have their own, unique strengths. Is Josh Reed going to still get minutes as we get further into the year? I don't know. I don't think so because he just kind of seems like when he's in there, nothing happens. Like he literally just doesn't do much. He does rebound. I'll give him that. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with him in the rotation. But, yeah, it's kind of tough to figure out who should be playing the bulk of the minutes, and I'm sure we're going to find out just based on the gameplay.
It's so much different than last year because that team was so ISO-oriented with Landers Nolly, with David DeJulius. They'd kick it out to Davenport, and he'd shoot the 30-footers. Adams Woods would get to the bucket but couldn't find any space to put it up and, would result in turnovers, missed layups. Sometimes Locken was there around the glass. There was just really no identity aside from ISO ball. And for ISO ballers in this day and age, like they were good. They somehow were able to form that into an identity and use it to their advantage. I mean, let's not forget they weren't amazing, but they beat most of the teams they were supposed to beat in the American and won a couple games in the NIT. Like they weren't a bad basketball team for how bad a brand of basketball they played. This is fun, man. I think Jizzle James, even though he had the 5 points today, he missed some shots. I think he's still going to have a really exciting season for Cincy. I just love how he's a freshman, and it seems like he has no fear whatsoever. He'll check into the game, and like I saw Dan Skillings was a little hesitant when he first checked in to take some dribbles. He'd catch it, he'd survey, he'd go back up top to Jizzle or Day, whoever it may be. Jizzle James is full steam ahead. He comes in, and the first thing he does is just attack and go right to the glass as a freshman, fearless. I love it. I said he may be the most exciting freshman point guard since, you can go back to Kashmir Wright. You can go back to Devin Downey. I think he's more impressive than Troy Copain was his first 4 games as a freshman. Your overall stance on Edgerrin James Jr., his legal name, I guess you could say, known as Jizzle right now, taking the college basketball country by storm, even though he kind of struggled today.
No, you can see a little Edgerrin James Sr. in him. He does not give a shit at all. Like he's not afraid of the moment in any capacity. Sometimes that bites us in the ass because he just drove into like 6 guys and threw it up in the air. That'll happen with freshmen. But he's built like a senior, and I've loved what I've seen. His explosiveness, his shot is questionable right now, but he did knock one down today. I'm sure that'll get more consistent over time, but yeah, Jizzle James has been awesome, man. It looks like Rayvon is going to redshirt from all accounts. So we're going to need Jizzle to take the lion's share of that freshman class, at least for now.
Wild West Miller. We saw it a lot last year. It continues into this year.
Sweating.
The Bearcats once again have an angry coach patrolling the sidelines. First it was Bob Huggins, because people forget Bob Huggins in his heyday. Before it was Stool Bob Huggins, he was a little more mellow on the sidelines. Bob Huggins was an absolute psycho running up and down the sidelines. He was insane. Wonderful to watch. And then up there with him, Mick Cronin, the soundbite king, who gave you gold when he was angry, which was often after games, even when the Cats looked really good and won many, many games in a row. But man, I'll tell you what, Wes is up there with the two of them. And as a Bearcat fan who's had success my entire lifetime with those fiery coaches, I love it. I don't know about you. I love it.
I like it too. And all those guys have something in common, that they'll show them on the sidelines, and I'll just be going, why the hell are they so pissed? I'm like trying to think of why they're so pissed off at the refs. We're up like 18. I didn't even see a questionable call. And Wes is just chewing out that poor bald ref, just laying into him. Mick Cronin did it. Huggins did it. I love it. Yeah, I didn't see Brandon doing it too much. Okay, and that clearly was a bad sign. So yeah, Wes is fired up. He's chewing through 26 packs of gum and 26 bottles of water. He's an absolute menace on that sidelines. I think they were saying on the broadcast that they think his step counter already today is at like 15,000. So that's how fired up that guy gets. So I think it shows from his the play on the floor with the kids. They resonate with it.
Last player I really wanted to ISO on is Day Thomas. Went 8 of 11 from the floor, 2 of 5 from 3 rebounds. Started off the game with that really nice step back behind the back jumper that was smooth as hell, then turned it over 2 possessions in a row. You're going to get a lot of good and a lot of bad with Day Thomas. Hopefully more of the good as things start to speed up in the Big 12. But we've seen he has leaping ability. I think at some point when it's packed, because the student section was embarrassing. Jake Broadbeck pointed this out during the game. He goes to every single game. He doesn't miss one. Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, back in the day, he would have been a hero at MLT, buying the entire bar rounds of Irish car bombs. And this time, he's going to take the little man. He's going to put his little Jason Maxiel jersey on. He's going to march him through the snow, because we're going to get a winter weather Wednesday, even though we're not. And he's going to watch the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets and the Cincinnati Bearcats, which is the next game up. And long story short, as I weave in one of our viewers, Day Thomas is going to throw one down in that place. Between Day Thomas throwing down and CJ Frederick knocking down 2 or 3 in a row, we need that home court advantage back. Why is the student section not as good as it was at Old Fifth Third, man? That's one of my takeaways from this game, literally.
I don't know. We might need to take a deep dive into it. Yeah, because I get it kills the game when they show the student section on the broadcast and there's just like one guy with like a tuba and he's sober as hell. I'm like, where's the energy that we used to see back in the old Fifth Third arena? So maybe we'll have to get one of the listeners, since we can't be at many of these games doing this show, and do a deep dive. Really get into the student section, figure out what's going on. Right? Is it because Clifton they added a bunch of new bars, a bunch of new stuff to do, so now kids aren't going to the games? I don't know, but yeah, I wish they wouldn't even show it. I'm like, that makes us look like shit. Take that off the screen.
Well, back in the day when those games were on Fox 19, they had that tradition, one of the great traditions in sports. I don't know if they do it anymore. Maybe they don't have the paper programs on the seats, but you remember they'd tear up the paper, they'd throw it in the air. I haven't been to a game in a couple of years, and I can't remember, just with COVID and everything mixed in there, it's hard to remember like when that would have gotten away if it didn't. Someone on the chat let us know if they still do that, but it was a great tradition. They'd show it on the old broadcasts, on the big games, ESPN, whatever. Cats would get on the board first. Everyone was in their seats, and the paper would fly in the air. They still do that. Deep dive on that if they don't. Deep dive on that.
Yeah, I don't think they do. I don't think they do that anymore for the games that I went to, unless I was completely oblivious to what was going on around me. But again, it is a Sunday. I'm imagining me in college, after just an absolute bender of a Saturday and watching West Virginia beat the shit out of us in football and then rolling out of bed and going to Fifth Third Arena. So that's probably a big part of it. So we'll give them a slide on that.
Matt Myers says they don't give away the full duct tape pizzas anymore. It's personal size pizza now. Hey, more inventory means more people are happy. I always hated it when they do that in-game giveaway and they'd say one lucky fan from one row in the student section would win a pizza. Everyone cheer him on. It's like, there's one person that's going to win a Donato's pizza and share it with maybe 2 of his drunk buddies. Like, come on now. I don't love that promotion there. Jacob Broadbeck says, thank you, Chuck. Much needed on the energy. Agrees with Kelly. Mancini. Kelly, how are we? Welcome to the show. Mark Fetters, once again, one of the biggest nut cutters of them all out there. Fetters, we salute you. He's a Buckeyes fan. The Buckeyes are undefeated, going on a collision course with Michigan. Back to the Bearcats. Georgia Tech is up next. Forget the Yellow Jackets. Bearcats are going to stomp them out after covering today. They're going to roll this momentum into Cintas Center undefeated. I think so. This could be the year after the alumni team went into Cintas Center in the offseason and beat Zip 'em Up. It was the Nasty Natty. I think the Bearcats could do it this year. Cross your fingers, but they're going to have a shot. I think so far from what we've seen, they match up pretty well with Xavier. But I say that every single season. Disclaimer. Every single season.
I do too. The one thing is I don't think Xavier is nearly as good as they've been in the last few years. They are young, though, so they could turn it on. And it almost doesn't even matter. Every one of those games is usually going to be tight. Like I thought last year, we didn't match up well at all. And our boy DeJulius almost had that and 1-3 to go into OT until we blew it. But yeah, Georgia Tech. This is what you did with the football team too. We beat Pittsburgh, and we're like, oh, this team. I think Big 12 title is in the. That's what we're going for this year. We ended up being the worst team in the Big 12. So let's beat Georgia Tech first on Wednesday. I know they pulling up their schedule. They lost to UMass Lowell and beat Howard by 3. So it's a must win. It's a must win day before Thanksgiving. Hopefully we can pack the place up. And I don't know if I'm going to be out of town, unfortunately. I'm going to be driving almost right back to freaking Gary, Indiana. But hopefully we pack the place and we did what we did today. Because, yeah, Georgia Tech clearly is dog shit. So we better win that game.
I think the Cats look good, man. That's going to do it for the show. If we had more people, see, the numbers are dwindling. We had 11, it's down to 6. Are we not entertaining enough for you? Hold on, Houdini. Stay for the end of the show, baby. Stay for the end of the show. Come on now. Let's preview another show we have. It's called The Chatter. Houdini and myself are actually going to film it right after this. We could just stay live and do the entire thing, but at this point, with the 7 people watching, we'll just tease the chatter and tell you if you're a diehard, if you're one of the faithful, that has watched this show from the ground up, where Houdini and I are dedicating hours of a Sunday to bring you content. I will tell you, though, this is also, if you're just tuning in now, this is on the audio podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever it may be. And the numbers are big there. We're growing now, getting a little Bearcat community. Once we play Texas, when we play the likes of Kansas, I want hundreds of people in here. Houdini and I are going to be shotgunning beers on a Monday. It's going to be electric stuff. The chatter, though, we talk about sports. We talk about a whole bunch of nothing. We give you real news from real stories out there that make real people look like absolute idiots. MySpace top fives with big-time topics, and just good topics, in our opinion, with hopefully some good commentary. Here's a preview of the show. Casey, you could end it after this. Thanks for joining the stream, everyone. Cats are 4-0. Georgia Tech's up next. Chatterbox Bearcats with Chuck and Houdini. Like, subscribe, and toss us 5 stars if you like the show.
What if I told you that no two paths are ever the same? That different roads oftentimes lead to the spot where it all began? What if I told you 2 childhood friends came together to take over the podcast world?
Where's my snare?
Villanova should not be in the tournament.
Hey, everybody, how are you? Chuck Walter here. This sweatshirt's getting a little hot in here.
It's sorry about it, Pittsburgh. Better luck tomorrow.
Cincinnati, how we doing tonight?
The only thing on my mind this year is getting back to the state championship and smoking as much resin as I possibly can with my buddies.
It's the Skyline chili eating duo you love.
Oh, sweet heavens.
Back in action. This is The Chatter.